The review which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of friends, collectively known as Rogue Villain Media. It is all the more tragic in that they were sober, but had they been very, very intoxicated, they would not have cared, nor would they have minded to see as much of the mundane remake as they were about to see that day. For them, an iconic and influential movie became a nightmare. The events of that day were to lead to the review of one of the most original movies in the annals of American history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
To another episode of Reanimated. I am Vlad St. Valentine, and with me, as always, is the host with the Ramosis, Mr. Caidan Ramos. How you doing, buddy?
You're not Vlad.
What do you mean?
Some scary guy in a mask. You're not Vlad.
I am too. I am not an imposter at all.
Lies!
I am not the epic impalador! I'm Vlad, I promise.
All right. Got my eye on you. Ah, bees!
Wait, was this at the Wicker Man review?
Oh, God.
Oh. No, in honor of Leatherface, I figured I would sport the new trademark Rogue Villain mask, man.
Yeah, looks good.
Thank you. Oh, also with this is Joey. How's it going?
Doing pretty good.
Also known as Egon Strangler.
You're much cuter than the other Vlad.
Oh.
Don't worry, I'd smash both.
The same time.
So, we were going to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day, the 1974 original and the 2003 remake. Yeah, that's right. It came out when we were graduating high school, going into college, which is why we had fond memories of it, because we were teenagers when it came out. Then watching it again, I was like, oh, man, teenagers are dumb.
Yep. There's two things that we, as teenage boys, we liked about that movie.
The two stars of the remake are Jessica Biel's white T-shirt, and those are the two stars.
And the jeans too, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say that and Arlie Ermy yelling at people, but I can watch Arlie Ermy yelling at people all day long. I mean, fucking Stanley Kubrick enjoyed it so much he gave him a part in a movie and made him a star.
True.
But the opening scene of both movies is narrated by John Larroquette of Night Court fame, who got paid a joint for his first recording. I hope you got paid substantially more for the second one.
Better have.
He says he's never seen the movies either.
Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But, he got a joint for it and he did the intro, so why not? I will say, comparing the two intros for these movies, they try to be more stylistic and make it more like a credit scene in the remake, whereas the original one where it's just that photo flash noise. You got a dark screen, the photo flash.
And the voiceover on top of that, yeah.
But the photo flash is the only thing lighting up the close-up shots of like the decaying bodies and stuff. That was way more effective, I feel, than the more stylized remake version.
Yeah, I don't like that the new one ended with that stylized version still and giving it to us twice.
Oh, ending with the Blair Witch ending?
Yeah, I wasn't fond of that at all. I thought I remember liking it again when I was like 17, but...
Probably because the original wasn't fresh in your memory.
I don't think I even saw the original at that point in my life.
Yeah,
that came after the fact when I got more into horror stuff. And I went back and watched a lot of the originals.
Well, that's exactly what the remake was. The remake was, for those of us who didn't ever actually see the originals, we just grew up with Leatherface being in the mythos or whatever. You go in there like, fucking Leatherface movie. Hell yeah, he's chasing around chick with their wet titties and he's got his chainsaw and look at him be such a badass. And you think that's what Leatherface is just because you think, oh, Leatherface swinging monster. But like, if you actually go back and watch these movies, man, like Leatherface is a mentally handicapped.
There's more depth.
He's a victim of his own family. He's a scared victim who lashes out, and there's a lot of depth to that character. Like, there is more depth in Gunnar Hansen's performance in the first movie whenever, and I want to talk about this scene probably a little more in depth later, but like, I guess fuck it, we'll just get to it. After he makes his second kill, because the guy runs into his house and he clubs him, which was just brutal. And even though you didn't see anything, the fucking twitching was just
the twitching,
brutal.
That's one thing that always kind of sticks with me. That twitching was spot on.
Yeah, and then the girlfriend comes in looking for him, and he gets freaked out and puts her on the meat hook. And then he immediately goes and looks out the window, like, 2 people have just walked into my house. Is there anyone else coming?
Yeah.
What do I do? And then he sits down, and he has his head in his hands. He's shaking. And then we get that close-up of the little buck
The
teeth.
eyes and the teeth. Yeah, the teeth are kind of like all janky. And
Some tongue sticks out, and there's just no intelligence, like no deep intelligence there. And like, because the whole idea was that he
it was
couldn't
very simple in the way that
he couldn't express himself without his mask.
Right.
His mask was his personality, so there was supposed to be nothing beyond the mask. So just that little bit of getting that up close of the eyes, to me, played 100 times better than seeing the new guy hulk around menacing people. And we got the full him taking his fucking mask off and showing his crypt keeper
saying,
nose.
He had a flesh
eating disease. Or something.
Yeah. It's like it's just an excuse to make him look like Jason from Jason Goes to Hell, pretty much.
It was like crypt keeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just gave him an
Crypt
excuse
Keeper.
to try and, look at another shock value thing. His face is, missing a nose and shit. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's nothing special, really.
I did not care for it.
Now, there are a couple things I did like about the new that remake, not the new one, because the new one was
2003s. We're doing the Jessica Biel.
Yeah. Now, with this one, there were a couple things I did like that they didn't do in the original. Like when they kind of went on almost like the high tension style cat and mouse game that happened at the end where she's running and hiding and he's coming after her. That kind of stuff I like because the original didn't have that. And I've always liked that kind of high tension thing.
The chase scenes in the remake are much better than the original.
Oh, yeah, the ones that are in there, yeah.
Because the original, you got her, the Sally running through the brambles, which really cut up the actress. So some of the blood on her outfit was her real blood. Where she runs to the house, goes upstairs and sees the grandma and grandpa, and then runs back out to the woods, like basically running through the same brambles she just ran through. And you're sitting there going, what the fuck was the point of that? Like, just so she could see the grandma and grandpa? Like, it didn't make any sense. But in the remake, the guy gets his leg cut off when he's running through the sheets.
From the sheets, yep.
The sheets was an effective chase scene.
I like that
Jessica
scene.
Biel later on, not just because of the water sprinkler, but that was an effective chase scene through the lockers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The chases were better in the remake. I will give you that.
That thing's like, and I've always been a big fan of the whole cat and mouse thing because, like, I think that's a big thing. If you guys ever saw that movie High Tension, a lot of it was, most of the whole movie was that, and the way it keeps you in suspense. Right? She's hiding in the bathroom, and the guy comes in, like, walks around the bathroom, then leaves. It's like, fuck, and then like you finally kind of feel that relief that the character has. There was a lot of that with the 2003 version, which did not exist in the original. The original had some scenes like that, but the original kind of focused on other things like how kind of fucked up the family is as a whole. Because it focuses on the whole family. It kind of shows more of their brutality and kind of how twisted all of them are.
Yeah.
They didn't focus on the chases and that kind of tension. It was another kind of like psychological thing that they were going for.
Well, in this one, in the remake, you felt like the whole town, because the family was so much larger. You kind of felt like they were the only people because the only people you saw in the whole town were people that were part of this family.
Yeah.
Right. And in the original, there's less of them too. Like the original, there was the guy that ran the barbecue shop. You had the
dad.
Was he the dad?
He's the dad. You got the 2 sons who were Leatherface and the
hitchhiker guy, and then the grandpa. That was it.
That was it. You got grandma's body up next to grandpa, but that Sally scene.
You never saw her outside of that.
But you never saw her outside of that. She was already completely dead.
Yep.
Yeah, because you had that.
Who was fucking these people to make these kids? That's why I guess kind of implied that they were stealing the kids in the remake, because that's one of the things that the remake kind of says, like they were stealing the babies from people. Like, that makes a little more sense, because where the fuck do they get these people from?
That makes more sense, but also that was one of my biggest critiques of that film was the whole like, oh, you stole that baby. Well, where the hell did that baby come from? There's no talk of them stealing children. There's no reference to it. Like,
there is.
They just kind of hinted like with like a picture.
Yeah, it was implying that the girl they picked up in the beginning was her and her family had traveled through there, and she just went through the same things that Jessica Biel ended up going through, because Jessica Biel kind of repeats the same things at the end she was going through with the whole, I just want to go home. And
I got that part, but the baby part didn't make sense to me. Maybe I missed something, but
well, they found the picture of that girl and her family, and part of the family was the baby, so they killed everybody else.
Kept the baby.
The baby, and that girl ended up escaping.
I guess I missed that part because to me it seemed like that was like this random ass thing they just do in the plot, like, oh, and there's a baby. You know, like, how very.
No, it was the original hitchhiker girl who shot herself. It was like maybe her little sister or something.
Gotcha.
So
that makes more sense then. Okay, I guess I didn't put that part together.
So we talked about the twitching and the violence in the original movie, where there's just basically nothing on screen. It's all implied, but it's still got an X originally, and they had to cut it down.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because he actually wanted a PG rating initially, so he actually toned it. He tried toning stuff down to have a PG rating at the time. For Toby Hooper did.
Yeah,
and even then they're still like, no, that's still R.
No, because the only time you see a chainsaw or anything go into anyone, it's Leatherface's leg at the end.
Mm-hmm. That's the only time, you actually see contact, yeah.
And apparently the screams of pain were real because the metal plate they had underneath there was heating up from the chainsaw and was like burning Gunnar Hansen's leg. So like those screams of pain were real. Just like at the end, whenever the story about the swinging the chainsaw at the end.
Mm-mm.
He's like, Toby Hooper's like, act mad. And so he's like, well, I didn't want to stamp my feet because that wasn't, really enough. And plus I was pissed at Toby for all the fucking torture. So he starts swinging the chainsaw around violently and stuff like that to freak Toby Hooper and scare everybody on set. And, get real close to everyone and stuff like that with the chainsaw and freak them out. I
dig that. That's also one thing I do like about some of the older films as well, is they give the actors room to express themselves as that character, because nowadays you don't have that kind of deviation. Like everyone just kind of follows things by the book as they're told. Like there's a choreographer that says do this way, and that's all they do. Back then it was like, oh, that's like more improv was used because like these people are actually getting into these characters.
Well, yeah, so much so that they almost fucking killed Sally when they were doing the dinner scene because. So the dinner scene, all right.
It looked like the hammer was dropped actually on her head a couple times.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah, so that looks like it actually bounced off him once or twice.
There's a couple things about this. So first of all, Gunnar Hansen actually went and spent time in hospitals for special needs people and stuff like that to actually study how they moved and how they talked and things like that, and try to get his representation of someone who was special needs to not be insulting.
Right.
And a lot of people have come out, from the special needs community saying that, his representation was done well.
Yeah, because at no point did it seem like he was pointing fun, because he could easily go into that territory.
No,
it looks like he did not go that route whatsoever. Like it was not tongue in cheek. It was.
Yeah, and the way he moves, he hunches over a little bit, and he's not hulking like the guy in the remake was, and he looks like a scared, beaten cur.
Yeah.
And we could talk about the mask. We talk about the mask representing, his different personalities. That's why he's got 3 masks in the original. He's got his killing mask, which he only ever kills in self-defense because he gets scared.
Right.
People are barging
into his house. It was technically a home invasion. Yeah, he was scared shitless of it.
Fucking Texas, man. That's legal shit.
Yeah.
And then
they give you a pat on the back and a gun for that. Yeah.
Yeah, shit. Key to the city. But
Golden Spurs, yeah.
He's got when the dad comes home with the hitchhiker, he's got his apron and his wooden spoon, and he's got the mom mask on because he wants to be helpful around the house. Then he goes and he wears the pretty lady mask when he's at dinner because he's wearing a suit and tie because you dress up for dinner in the Southern tradition, right?
And his behavior's actually changed as well. When I saw when he was wearing the mother mask, he actually even the voice changed. He had more of a feminine sounding voice with like the sounds he was making.
The
which I never noticed before actually until I watched it this time. I was like, oh hell. Like he even not only did he change the mask he wore, but he actually changed the mannerisms, the voice, the personality that came with that mask.
Because that's what the mask represented was the parts of his personality.
Right.
That's how
that's kind of cool seeing it that way. Yeah, it's definitely cool seeing it that way.
Which was completely devoid in this Michael Bay produced remake where he only
wore 2.
He put on the other boyfriend's mask, which was a creepy shot when
he turns and he. That was a good job on the face.
Yeah. Very, very powerful shot, but it took away what the mask meant completely. And the performance was not anywhere near what Gunnar Hansen's was. They're not even comparable. It was somebody who just did a monster version of a character after years and years of us building up to being nothing but just a slasher monster, as opposed to finding the depth that made the character what it really was.
And I think that's a big thing too. Like I think they took a lot more from the sequels of the original, because as the story progressed with parts 2 and 3 and all the other ones, it's like they became more of just a slasher character, and there became less and less personality in it. And I think they just kind of took all that as just one thing. Oh, this is just Leatherface. Bam, blanket statement. And because of that, oh, he's like this hulking monster that's like, you, chainsaw, girl, go.
Kind of hard to have a lot of depth when you're acting across from Bill Moseley as Chop Top, though.
Fair.
Very true.
But I mean, we brought that up with all the other characters too. Kane Hodder's Jason versus the newer Jasons, and Mike Myers and the old one, and then versus Rob Zombie, Mike Myers. Like any new reiteration of our old slasher movies are just that they're just monsters. There's no kind of personality or development for them.
And that's a big change of what's going on now versus what they're doing back when they created these things back in the 70s and 80s too, because they needed to create, because at the time nothing like that existed. So they were creating the world, creating the environment, creating the characters.
So these things are victims of their own
personalities.
mythos.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just like the more sequels you have of something, the more and more it deviates from what made the original so good.
More dilutes and the more it just becomes this
because it
homogenous thing where every horror movie monster from the 80s, except for Freddy, because he is so uniquely Freddy, has just become the hulking slasher killer.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what all of them kind of turned into. I mean, even Jason had more of a personality early on versus in the later movies.
Well, 4 is the Jason movie. 4 is the one that's the quintessential Jason movie.
Yeah. Even though I'm still a big fan of Part 8, mostly because I liked him being on that cruise ship.
Jason Takes Manhattan.
I don't know why.
Or Jason Takes Montreal for 5 minutes is what it should be called.
Yeah, the Jason Takes Manhattan thing is... I think for me, it's always been that steam room where he kills a dude with the rock in the steam room. That's always like stuck in my head as like my favorite Jason scene outside of in Freddy vs. Jason when he folds a dude up backwards into the bed.
I will say one thing about Friday the 13th Part 4. Crispin Glover dancing. That's all you need.
Crispin Glover's great, man.
Like the shrieking hair obsessed assassin from Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Oof. So we were talking about the characters really feeling like they were the characters, and the most famous scene in the original movie that they didn't even try and...
My bad.
Right. They didn't even attempt to try and remake in the new one was, of course, the dinner scene.
Right.
Which, let's talk about what they went through on the dinner scene. So instead of shooting the dinner scene like you would shoot any other thing, like, you shoot what you can and you do, a couple of days of shooting or whatever for something that extensive. The guy who was in the grandpa makeup had such a miserable time putting the makeup on, he refused to do it twice. So he's like, we're shooting this whole fucking thing in one sitting. They shot that dinner scene for 36 hours straight.
Jeez.
What?
In a house that had no air conditioning, in a record Texas heat that was breaking 100 every day, with a room full of rotted meat that was getting more and more rotten because they're using real meat on the set. So they're in a giant hot box with the lights on them. And I can tell you right now, the lights in here with the AC going is fucking miserable. Like,
no AC, these lights, plus Texas heat outside pretty much on top of that.
Baking the house, rotted meat
from
smell.
all the fucking heat, yeah.
Plus all your clothes smell horrible from all the days of sweating because they can't wash the clothes.
Yeah.
So it's just...
Oh, yeah, because if you wash it, then all of a sudden it doesn't look like it's in continuity.
They were saying that by the end of it, no one would eat lunch with Gunner because his clothes smelled so bad.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Like on the remake, one of the guys, when he got done shooting his last bit, took his clothes off and threw them at the fucking crew and walked off naked. I forget which actor it was, but apparently one of them was like, I've had enough of this. Apparently they're shooting these things and the whole thing feels dirty and grimy and gritty, and that's one of the things I will give to both these movies. And something else I think Rob Zombie captures well is in these gritty, like redneck bumpkin sort of, like there's always something to look at in every frame.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's always some little bone carving or something. Every frame is just packed with something creepy and cool to look at, and both movies do that very well. But the dinner scene, they're in that heat. And it got to a point where Gunnar was like, I almost thought I was Leatherface and we were going to kill this woman. They were telling me to kill her. And there was a split second where I almost did it because they were telling me to do it and I was in character. Man. And where they cut her finger for Homeboy to suck on or whatever, they really cut her finger.
Really?
Because the fake knife wasn't splitting the blood out right. So she moved her finger up so he cut it for real. So that's her real fucking blood.
And see, that's another thing. Most actors don't take that kind of dedication to the role anymore either. Which also nowadays I'm pretty sure there's stricter guidelines on it and probably listen, you cannot actually cut yourself anymore.
Well, If it happens on accident, you just keep rolling with it and stick it in your movie, like
Leonardo DiCaprio did. Which
Dude.
that scene was like probably one of the greatest, most memorable scenes of that entire movie. I cannot remember most of the rest of that movie.
But one thing I will say about that real quick though, we all talk about how great DiCaps was. How do we talk about the fucking actress who got that fucking DiCaprio blood smeared all over her face and just ran with it?
And she had no idea that.
And just went with it.
She's rolled with it. Yeah.
She deserves a fucking Oscar for that alone.
I agree.
For rolling with the most disgusting thing in the fucking universe.
Yeah.
Brunhilde, I don't remember the actress's name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't remember her name either, but I know because I know that look of terror on her face, like the reaction you would get from that thing was a real reaction because that really happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everyone, like from my understanding, like everyone behind the camera was like,
he went for it and it paid off.
They just rolled. He's like, that's the cut. No, we don't need to do another one. That's it.
Yeah, he went for it and it paid off.
That's our boy.
That's what you're talking about. What you're ultimately talking about, what brought us back to this is commitment.
Yes, absolutely.
Going for it and committing to it.
And there's a big difference too, because you can tell, and especially in the earlier horror films, they had more room to work with, more room to flush out their own character. Like the actors flushed out their characters.
You're not beholden to a fucking studio.
Exactly. And like they're making their characters like, okay, well, this is good, but I bet I can do this way, and it'll make it a little bit better than what they actually wrote or what they had in mind for the character. And that is what makes them iconic. When you go into something like this, where it's like strict by the book, black and white, you do this, you go here.
It's a Michael Bay horror film.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can tell. It feels like it too. And I don't know. It's like you can definitely tell there's more commitment in the older ones than the new ones. Because at this point, it's like,
it's not
a movie.
It's not an art project anymore. It's a franchise that you're trying to work around studio limitations and the societal expectations.
Yes.
And you ultimately create, more times than not, a bland product that appeases nobody because the studio ultimately just wants to make money.
Exactly.
And they're not going to make money because you made this bland, middle-of-the-road thing that you wanted to try to appeal to the masses. It appeals to absolutely fucking nobody. When you take the chance, that can appeal to the masses. I know you guys like to bag on the fucking Joker, but like, man, that was a movie about mental health. It wasn't about fucking incels or any other crap. It was a movie about fucking mental health that Joaquin Phoenix totally committed to, and it worked.
Yeah, that worked. They did. I've always been a big fan of doing a lot with a little, with like very little amount of things, and do something big with it.
It's less is more.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a less is more mentality, and it works in that situation. Also, I mean, like the original Texas Chainsaw didn't have a huge budget either. Well, the original Halloween was working on nickels and dimes.
Well, you can't. Our spectacle has grown so far to now you can't like. Does anyone talk about how great the special effects are in Disney movies or Marvel movies anymore? No, because it's taken for granted.
Yeah,
it's going to be some spectacular CGI monstrosity, and it's going to look amazing and seamless, and we're all going to have a great time.
At least for a couple more years, and a decade later, we'll be like, man, that looks like it came out in 2010.
So talking on the dinner scene, Edwin Neal, the guy who played the hitchhiker, said that it was the worst experience of his life, and he was in Vietnam. He said doing the dinner scene was worse than being in Vietnam.
Wow. It was just that torturous.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you're going for that long back, like for that long of a period, that makes sense.
He's even said to this day, like if he sees Toby Hooper again, he might punch him in the face.
Good luck with that.
And well, you know what I mean. He up until a point he had said that, you know, maybe like, and he's the kind of crazy son of a bitch I don't think I'd want to fuck with. Like, have you seen pictures of him? He looks like a hard ass biker son of a bitch. He definitely looks like a Vietnam vet. That's for fucking sure.
No. Like one of my initial impressions, like when they first picked him up, I'm like, oh, it's a hitchhiker from Mineral Walls, and after looking at him now, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to say that to his face.
I haven't seen him now, so
he said he based his portrayal on like a weird nephew he had. He went in there and read the lines like one of his weird nephews, and it just was what he's looking for, so he got the part. It worked, man.
Again, this goes back to commitment. It's just you find something that gives you inspiration, you base your character off of that. And you don't have that. They're not doing that with these horror movies now. No,
he was a great character, and I don't mind. You know, and one of them had to die in the movie. I guess that's fine because again, he gets replaced by Chop Top because they say Chop Top was away at Vietnam during the first movie, and he came back all fucked up. That's where he was. That's the story where Chop Top was during the first movie and why he wasn't there.
Okay.
He was away at Vietnam and came back all fucked up with the plate in his head.
Yeah. Okay. Didn't know that. Okay.
That he sits there and.
Oh, he's gonna send me back to the VA hospital with his damn my plate.
I know Bill Moseley's been working on being able to buy the rights to that character so he owns it.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I know he's been trying to do that for a while. I'm all for it. And I think he wants to actually use it to make a Chop Top movie.
Cool.
Which, you know what? If anyone were to make it, Bill Moseley's the one who I'd want to make it because he knows and loves that character.
Yeah.
And he wants it for himself. So like, yeah. If you don't do it justice, it'd be the guy who played it originally.
You know exactly who you could call to direct it too, right? Mm-hmm. Mr. Zombie.
Yeah.
They're buddies.
You know, yeah, they are. I wouldn't let Zombie write it because he's not.
No.
That'd be Bill Moseley. Yeah, he could do what he wants with it, but I'll let Zombie be in charge of directing and the cinematography because he's good for that.
Oh yeah,
he's really good at imagery. He's really good at that,
and especially capturing that gritty, dirty style that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series has always had.
Absolutely, and I think that's why I like House of a Thousand Corpses, even though a lot of people gave it a lot of shit.
No, that was a love letter to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Exactly, yeah. All it was a good horror movie for horror movie fans, period. And it had a little bit of everything for any type of horror movie fan.
It was heavy.
If you take it for that, you'll appreciate it more.
It was heavy metal exploitation Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
So
the only problem is he can't write dialogue to save his life.
No, the fucking Halloween movies are god awful. Or the Halloween remake was god awful. Yeah. We tore that one a new one. Check it out. We link somewhere in the I don't know, I'm not putting a link anywhere. But it's on our channel.
Just scroll through our channel.
You'll see it. Just watch enough of the videos, you'll find it eventually. You're good.
Just keep watching our videos. They're fun.
Yeah, you're good.
We're delightful. But yeah, before we do talk about the film, like in depth though, I want to cover something real quick, something I'm fucking sick of hearing, and I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing, having been born in Texas, because being born in Texas, you will hear at least one asshole every 5 or 6 years tell you that they grew up right where the Texas Chainsaw Massacres happened. It's based on a real story. It says in the film, man, it happened down this part of Texas. I grew up right around there, man. It's a real story.
They said the same thing about the Fourth Kind in Nome, Alaska, and they got sued for that shit.
All right, guys. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on Ed fucking Gein.
Yes.
Ed Gein is from what, Wisconsin?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right, yeah.
Nothing to do with Texas. All right. The only thing that happened here that's remotely similar to this was something that they made another movie based on called The Town That Fears Sundown. It was the Phantom Killer that happened out in where? Fucking like
that was Texarkana.
Yeah.
Texarkana in 1946. So that's our one thing. They made a movie, Town That Feared Sundown. Go watch that.
Other than that, we've had Waco and the guy in the Austin Tower.
The Austin Bell Tower, dude.
And also the guy that shot up that Denny's, I think. That's it.
I mean, some shootings, but we don't have any creepy backwards.
Nothing like that. No. I think Galveston, Texas, had the candy store guy that was killing people.
But but the only time you get someone who's like some backwoods hillbilly who's like torturing people is the fucking what was that? The one in Australia. They made a movie about it too.
No, the Wolf Creek guy.
Yeah. That was a real dude who was fucking.
That was real. Yeah.
Fucking up people. Yeah, not in Texas, gnarly, guys. Yeah. I'm sorry. I hate to break your little Texan hearts, but. It didn't happen here. It's a Wisconsin story that we transplanted because people fear the fucking South because it's some backwoods hillbilly place. You set it down in the South or you set it in the Appalachian Mountains or any place that people on the fucking coast are scared of. And you got a fucking story.
Yep.
Well, that's just it. That's one of the things I want to talk about you were talking about the chase scenes being better in the new one. But one of the things I think that the new one fails to capture because it's like, a Michael Bay slick kind of modern movie. And other than the grimy feel that the original had, the original feels off from the very beginning.
Yes. It's the atmosphere of it. They do better with atmosphere on that one.
The atmosphere from the very beginning, like when they show up at the cemetery and people are drunk around the cemetery and you get the close up of the guy falling over and sitting in the tire.
There on the ground. Yeah.
Drunk rambling.
Yeah, everything just feels off. Everyone who they meet feels just slightly off. Everything about it has a sinister tone to the whole atmosphere and feel to it. And that's something they captured much better.
Yes.
And especially with being during the daylight, that tone, the creepy, the wheelchair dude stumbling across the little bone sculptures on the porch and things like that. Mm-hmm. You don't feel safe anytime. It's supposed to be this idyllic little countryside, and I think they do a better job of making that feel creepy than the remake does. Because
the remake, every single person that you meet is in on whatever's going on, and so it's just like all you're seeing are the family. Period. You're not seeing the locals.
I don't know. Just night and day don't seem to matter much in the remake. Whereas you felt so much tension during the day that when night falls on Sally and they're by those cars, like her and her wheelchair brother are just sitting there just kind of yelling out. Like it feels desperate. Like it was bad during the day. Now night's fucking here.
Right.
Like now we're fucked.
Right.
And you feel like you're fucked. And again, the tension's much better. In the new one, it's the Arlie Ermey show.
Which even then, I didn't like his character much at all in the first place. Like it just seemed like they could have done something else.
Well, it's just Arlie Ermey being Arlie Ermey.
Yeah, a lot of the plot that was going on with him just seemed like it just didn't really fit to me. Like it just didn't really work. Like, why does the cop character played by Arlie Ermey have to? I get they're trying to make, oh yeah, he's part of one of these like the psycho family, but you know what? You could just not use that character in the first place.
He's not a
have
cop.
the same. Well, the sheriff, yeah.
He's not a sheriff. He killed the sheriff and fucking took his stuff.
Ah, there you go.
That's in the sequel to this one was the one after this was a prequel.
Right.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: A New Beginning or whatever it was.
Yes.
And that one you get to see, I think, Arlie Ermey like kill the sheriff Hoyt and take his stuff, and he's pretending to be the sheriff in town.
Wow.
So he's just another crazy member of this fucking family.
Gotcha. And that explains why the lady at the diner called him.
That's
she's in. That's like his wife or something.
All right. So family wise, I'm pretty sure that Arlie Ermey that's her son. So structure wise, you got Mama and her brother, who's the guy with no legs, and then you got Arlie Ermey, who's like her son. I think they imply because he calls her Mama a couple times, which I guess would make Leatherface his brother.
Right, and then they have the little
kid, the little kid who calls her grandma,
little guy.
But I'm thinking that I don't think that Arlie Ermey fucked anybody and had a kid. I think that was probably another kid they kidnapped somewhere or something. Or
which,
probably,
again, they don't go into where the fuck this kid came from.
No,
So.
matter of fact, the kid was supposed to die. They cut that scene out. Like whenever he helps them escape or whatever, Leatherface turns and cuts him in half with the fucking chainsaw, and they thought that was a little too much. So they cut that out, which I think that would have been great. Cut fucking. I'm gonna call him Roach from People Under the Stairs because I don't remember his name.
I did like that movie a lot.
That was a great movie.
That was a good one. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. The more I'm thinking about, like, I just did not really like his scenes. I didn't like his character. I didn't like I don't know. I didn't like it. It just didn't feel right. The Arlie Ermey. I just didn't like him in it. Like it didn't work for me.
It felt a little forced, kind of like what they do with a bunch of the scenes in Rob Zombie's Halloween.
But I felt like he was the only tension in the movie because they couldn't establish it with the fucking mood.
True.
Him fucking with the kids was the only amount of tension they were able to build in that whole thing.
Yeah, that is true. It's the only place I got the tension from. But at the same time, it's like it just didn't really work.
When he's sitting in the back seat with that kid putting the gun in his mouth and shit, and the kid turns and puts the gun on him, that was well done. I like that scene. The kid fucking in the back fucking like blubbering or whatever, and he fucking cracks the bottle over his face as he knocks his teeth out. He's like, oh, look, we got something in common now. Like, I like all the scenes with Arlie Ermey fucking with him. And him still keeping the guise of, is this guy on the up and upper? And, I know he's bending the laws and he's pushing shit, but is he still like the authority here? Or what's going on? I liked all that with Arlie Ermey. I did. And I honestly thought that was the best part of the remake because most of the other stuff for me just didn't really work. I mean, the atmosphere wasn't there. The set design was fine. It looked like the original as far as there being something to look at, and it was gritty and shit like that. But
the slaughterhouse looked pretty good. Like, the set design is all right.
Yeah, going to the slaughterhouse was cool. Actually getting to go to the slaughterhouse instead of it just being the soundtrack for the whole movie like it was in the original.
Right.
But I miss the hitchhiker being a victim instead of one of the members of the family who does weird shit. It was an interesting take on it. I'm not going to try and compare the two because they're so different.
While there are some similarities, that's what the thing is. Like, I was initially watching the two to do this based on, compare and contrast, like this character versus this character. But the thing is, the characters don't even have the same names. They're not the same characters. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of differences. And it's like they kept some of the same kind of plot points, but then they kind of went on a different tangent entirely.
The only connection you have is whenever Jessica Biel whips out her knife and she says, I got it from my brother. Because if you remember in the original, the brother has a knife. The brother has a knife and gives it to the sister and they can't find it because she never gave it back. So she still got the knife. Mm-hmm. That's the only little Easter egg connection over.
That's it, yeah.
And again, this remake was not great. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't really anything memorable either. I mean,
they got some more visceral stuff in there because they could get away with more. Like him preparing the stub of the guy's leg, like a meat thing where he put the salt in there. That was cool. I liked that. I didn't like seeing him show his face. I didn't think that the guy playing Leatherface had any fucking idea what he was doing playing the character. And ultimately, I think that's what makes it
cues.
Yeah, that's what made it fail. So I don't know. The remake. All right, so we watch a lot of these classics and they can be boring or slow paced.
Yep.
Halloween is a good movie, but it can be slow.
It is a slow burn, yeah.
The original Friday the 13th is just a shit fest.
Yeah.
That's just a slow ass boring movie. With the other ones we've done, the Child's Play's fun the whole way through. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I would put more in line with Halloween in that it does kind of start as a slow burn, but I was never bored by any of this because even though it's slow starting out, like I was saying, that gritty off feeling to everything, it keeps you engaged the whole time.
It still has your attention.
And that's something I can't say for the remake. And the remake does start off pretty fucking heavy, but like the weed subplot, so they can be in more trouble with the Arlie Army, and then the chick shooting herself, and it gets you, right at the beginning, someone blowing their fucking brains out, and they try and go for that shock value right up front. But I think that ultimately kind of plays out like the Evil Dead remake, where you got the witch running through the scene first off, instead of just building tension with music and people driving. I think you came too early, man. You just blew your load way too fast. Yeah, and now you're just trying to work your way up for that second less satisfying, ejaculation an hour and a half later. Yeah, that's what I think too. It's just kind of how it goes with those, especially with newer ones, where they hit you immediately with that shock value, bam, right out the gate. Like, oh, where's this going to go from here? Yeah, sadly, they gave you 100% right there at the beginning, and then it just drops. And they try and rebuild, but never gets to that peak again. Yeah. And that's how a lot of them are.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be honest. I actually had to watch this one twice because I fell asleep the first time.
I will say one of the opening scenes that made me laugh really hard was the window washer. Just that subtle gag in the background when they go to the gas station. It's a little background gag. When they go to the gas station, they're talking to the old man or whatever. When he goes up to talk to him, they got the window water. The guy just kind of, the fucking bald ginger dude just kind of sitting there staring off, and he walks up with his bucket and starts washing the windshield. And as soon as the old man's done talking, he throws his bucket down, starts walking back, and then they starts talking to the old man again. The old man turns back and walks to the car. And so the window washer walks back to the car and starts washing the window again. And he does it like 2 or 3 times. Every time old man walks away, the guy stops and walks away. And then every time old man turns back around to the car, he turns back around and starts washing the windows again.
How did I not notice that?
It's fucking hilarious.
How did I not notice that? Because that's something I would have definitely picked up.
Oh, it's a great gag.
Oh, I need to.
Yeah, I only noticed it the first time. I didn't see him go back.
Now I gotta watch it again.
No,
just for that.
Every time old man turns around, he stops, and then every time he turns back around to the car, he goes back to washing the windows again. It's a great bit.
I need to see it again just for that.
Little things like that are what make the movie, man. Little things, not just the gag humor. I'm just saying, like, the attention to little bitty things like that. There's a little bit of humor in the beginning of it, but it's a guy being weird, which adds to all the other weirdness around you, that uneasy feeling.
Right.
But it lets out the tension just a little bit because it's kind of a little funny sight gag. But everything else around it's so fucking bizarre and so off kilter. But this is a moment of levity. It's a moment of comfort before you drop you into everything else, right? You got a little bit of weirdness, but you got the comfort of the seemingly normal convenience store guy. Mm-hmm. And this guy's doing a little side gag. I mean, he's obviously a little weird, but it's funny. It's a little moment of levity and safety before they completely drop you off into just feeling just like this the entire time because something is fucking out there in those bushes. Right.
And then also, like, whenever she's running away and she goes back to that one place that she felt was safe.
And you feel
then it just kind of snaps and turns on you. It's like, oh, that is not a safe place for you.
No. Yeah. And again, another character who's got a lot of depth just in his facial expressions, the old man, because when he's got her in thing, he never looks sure of himself. He'll start laughing and smiling, then he starts looking like he's feeling bad about it. And they later on they expound upon that in dialogue when the hitchhiker's like,
he doesn't like killing.
You're just a cook. Yeah, you're just a cook. He's like, I never took no pleasure in the killing. Mm-hmm. And the whole time he's not really enjoying what they're doing.
No,
more depth in that character than.
It's like I wanted to kind of know more about that relationship with him and the rest of that family as well, because that's exactly because wait a minute, he's not into the killing, but everyone else is.
Well, at least the hitchhiker is, because Leatherface just does what he's told.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's just, as we go on later when they're making the chili and stuff, it's the family business, probably the old man started this shit, and the grandpa. And so it's just, this is what they do. And you may not get a pleasure in it, but it's the family business. It's what's done.
It's the job,
We make the chili. It's the meat.
Now, one thing I will say, when it came to the meat hook scene, when Leatherface puts the girl on the meat hook, from that movie, and then comparing and contrasting that with the meat hook scene from this one,
where he actually tries to pull himself off of it and slides back.
My big thing was them being dropped on the meat hook. I don't know if you guys picked it up, but there was no sound when he dropped her on it.
Uh-huh.
I loved that because it's just like really just like on the meat hook, done. But when they did this one, it had like the sound effects of like that kind of sound stuff. I think the fact there was no sound and the fact he just so nonchalant just tossed her up on there and there was no sound to go with and nothing to accentuate that it happened. She's just meat. It was just a thing that was done.
She's just meat.
That I thought was beautiful. I think that was great. I like the fact that, again, you can do a lot with very little. And having no sound there, I think made that just dug that knife just a little bit more, just a little twist, I think that made it even more surreal for me, was there being no sound from it.
One of the things I have to ask about all the people in these movies is, why do you keep walking into fucking strangers' houses, especially in Texas? Don't do that here, man.
Now, okay, so here's the thing.
Every one of these assholes coming through these fucking house, like, hello, your door was open. Fuck you. You deserve what happened to you, especially walking into a stranger's house in Texas.
Yeah, so here's the thing. In the original one, they're from Texas as well.
Yep.
So they should have fucking known better. Now, in this one, they weren't. They were from other states. Mm-hmm. So they were coming to Texas to go to a Leonard Skinner concert.
They're coming from Mexico, though.
Yeah, they're coming from Mexico.
With all their weed.
Because like one of them came from New York, one came from somewhere else, and then they went to Mexico, and then they went up through Texas to go to this concert. So they're not from Texas. I don't know how you do things in New York. I'm pretty sure you also don't just wander into people's houses in New York either. But still, like, you don't do that in Texas. And if you're from Texas, you sure as fuck don't do that in Texas.
Don't walk into people's houses.
No, don't do it. It's not Canada.
Or pitch up hitchhikers.
Yeah, you don't do that either, unless you're in Hawaii. That's okay there.
They were saying, like, fucking the guy, the hitchhiker dude was saying that, like, for years, cops would come up and thank him for, like, dropping the crime rates because people stopped picking up hitchhikers after seeing the movie.
Well, all it took was that one knife scene.
Yeah.
When he just does one of those. Oh, man. It's like, man.
It's a good picture. You pay me now.
I cringe. Like, even though I knew that scene was coming, I still cringed because that was, oh God, it was just so dirty. Like, he looked so dirty and grungy. And it's like, dude, you're getting tetanus right now. Like, you're so, oh, that's gross.
Yeah, and then you think about it, like, he never like cleaned off the blood from it before, and then he's picking his nails later. Like,
yeah, he's like, picking his nails. He's like, does that look like blood? Of course it looks like blood. It was just dug into that random hobo guy's hand.
You might have HIV now.
Yeah, congratulations. You got whatever itis he's got.
Meat sweats.
Yeah. Your blood brothers with a psycho now. Congratulations.
This is how Chucky originally started.
Yeah.
I will say in the remake though, what's funny about the remake though is they weren't stopping anywhere in this town. Like Aaron's good intentions, Jessica Biel's character's good intentions, just get everyone fucking killed.
Mm.
Like, it's totally one of those, if you just hadn't stopped and picked up the fucking chick walking down the road and just like, oh, that's strange, someone walking down the side of the road. And just kept going.
Yeah, no, or even if they took the boyfriend's second opinion when they stopped the second time, like, hey, no, just dump her.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Nope.
Just dump her. We're already implied way enough. We got all this blood and guts or brain matter all over the fan.
We got all these issues. We still got the weed in the car. Like,
every time my hand touches brain, I'm a Tom Bob Lane motherfucker. Why am I back here on brain detail? This is repugnant shit.
It's funny. I did not even associate the Pulp Fiction. Like,
how could you not?
Like, I did not even think about that. And now that you said it, that's all I'm going to think of now.
Just Samuel Jackson back there with Arlie Urey cussing at each other, picking up brains.
God damn it, motherfucker.
Secret out motherfucker, the other one. That would be a motherfucker off I would like to see. Arlie Urey versus Samuel L. Jackson.
That would be good.
Just one-liners right after it.
Oh, God, yeah. That'd be great.
It's stream of consciousness insulting the way only certain people can do.
Yeah.
Like, I think Arlie Urey and The Rock might be the best in the world.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And Chris Jericho, he's up there. Because lest we forget, dirty, trash bag, bottom feeding, brutal hoe. Like,
I forgot about that.
That's a great line. Jericho can insult with the best of them, that's for sure. I've also got, I will trade the last third of this movie for that one dinner scene from the original.
If they could have utilized that kind of dinner scene and then had the cat and mouse chase after the fact, I think I'd have liked it more. But
the cat and mouse chases were good. Both of them, the laundry room and the slaughterhouse. Going to the slaughterhouse was cool. The wet t-shirt was cool. Arlie Urey yelling was cool. Like, there were all these little elements in this thing that were good and done well, but as a whole, it fell flat. It fell flat because, honestly, man, you can't recapture the magic of the original. And maybe they could have done something deeper if they'd actually played Leatherface like fucking Leatherface.
True.
But the main monster you're
Give
here
him
to
more
see,
personality. Yeah.
the monster you're here to see is just a hulking fucking slasher monster now. And instead, the only thing interesting on the screen is Arlie Army, and people like you didn't even care for it.
Yeah, I didn't even care for him. Yeah.
So
it's funny because I like him. I just didn't think he fit in this movie. It just didn't really work for me.
it'll take you out of it just because you're just watching Arlie Army be Arlie Army with a little bit more pervertness because he's filling up dead bodies and shit and being a little more skeezy, but it's still Arlie Army. It's one of those people like Christopher Walken. You see Christopher Walken, it's like it's Christopher Walken no matter what.
Yeah, he doesn't play a character. He just plays him.
That's almost why you can't have him do a drama anymore. You gotta just have him put a comedy piece coming in being Christopher Walken-y.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I hope that Arlie Army isn't at that point now. Don't get me wrong. I loved him in fucking Saving Silverman where he's the gay coach. But
I think he died, didn't he?
I don't think he's dead, is he?
I don't know.
I thought he passed away.
He might have.
I want to say he did like in the past like year or two.
Consult the Oracle.
Cool.
Yeah, April 15th, 2018.
Okay, so it was recently. Oh, that's a shame. Well, fuck.
Yeah.
Does he want to come back for a part 3?
I guess he won't come back for a part. Well,
Or part 1.5 since the other one's a prequel?
I don't know, man. They seem to fit Carrie Fisher in the third Star Wars movie after she died, so.
Well, they used the footage that they already used.
Yeah, they had like previous footage they just reused.
Hey,
Yeah.
man, I'm sure we can go see something together with Arlie Army. I'm glad you got that reference.
I'm sorry. If you get some guy to hold a cape over his mouth like this and just like shout drill sergeant shit.
Who the fuck said that? Who's the slimy little communist shit twinkle-toed cocksucker down here who just signed his own death warrant? Nobody, huh? The very fucking godmother said it. I'm fucking standing. I will PT you all until you fucking die. I'll PT you until your asshole for sucking buttermilk. Was it you scroungy little fuck, huh? Sir, no, sir. You little piece of shit, you look like a fucking worm. I bet it was you. Sir, no, sir.
I'll probably still watch it. Yeah, I'm in.
Guys,
why not? I'm in.
That was Reanimated. Man, which one would you recommend over the original or the remake?
The original, man.
Yeah, the original for sure.
The remake's not terrible. It's worth seeing once, especially for the few highlights that we mentioned. But
yeah, have some friends over, get drunk, laugh at it. You're good.
Go watch the original, and then for a good horror movie, and then watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 with Chop Top and have a good little giggle.
Yeah,
because that's the one with
Dennis Hopper
having a chainsaw battle.
Yeah,
the chainsaw sword fight at the end. He's got 2 smaller chainsaws in holsters on his side. And they just fight with him, and it's great. And Dennis Hopper is great.
Yeah, they give the full-on 80s treatment.
You get Leatherface versus Bowser. Like, what more do you want out of life? Groovy, guys. Please join us again for our next episode. Like, subscribe. What are we doing next?
We are doing your favorite.
Oh,
Nightmare
that's
on Elm
right.
Street.
We're going to cap out the 80s horror movie icons, aren't we? We're going to do Nightmare on Elm Street finally. Fuck yeah.
Looking forward to that one.
Dude, me too. All right, guys. Like, subscribe, and say hi to your mother for me.